Life in general, it's a trial and error process. So if we are not engaging in something, how will we understand if that thing is going to work for us or work against us? Struggling with mental health doesn't make you weak. Instead, if you are asking for help, if you're asking for support, it's a sign that you are trying to become a better person. Opening up about our mental health concerns, it is a sign of courage. In self care, what becomes most important here is how well we are able to do a positive analysis of ourselves. Health literacy plays a big role here. How literate we are about these medical terms and how aware we are. If not, if we are finding ourselves stuck with so much of information around us, it's always better to just have an initial conversation or an initial checkup with any kind of practitioner.
Life flows like an endless ocean of stories. We often miss these precious tales as we rush through our days, too consumed by daily struggles to notice the poetry swirling around us. Yet within these stories lie the keys to our past, sparks for our creativity, and fresh winds to fill our sails. I am Obro, a writer based in Melbourne, in quest of those stories with diverse voices that tell them from every corner of the world. Welcome to Stories and Stanza. Hi Debanjali, welcome to Stories and Stanza. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great today. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Just starting our Christmas break
Right.
now, and it'll kind of be a quiet period here for next 2 days. And I've been really busy, so looking
Mhm.
forward to this period to rest and recharge.
Right, absolutely.
So before we get started, I'm really looking forward to the episode. Before we get
Mhm.
started, for the listeners, could you give a brief introduction, please?
Yeah, definitely. So myself, Debanjali Roy Chaudhary, I'm currently full-time employed as a counseling psychologist, and I've been practicing with 1,000 plus clients so far. And I'm also really passionate about research, and I have published mental health articles on several journals and e-magazines.
Wonderful. And I'm really glad that you took the time to talk to us today. And I hope that
Thank you for inviting me as a guest speaker on your podcast. I'm really,
uh,
really glad about it.
thanks. I really look forward to this, and I think we would be able to shed some light into some of the interesting aspects in today's day and age. And this podcast, in that I created this section called "Fail with Me," uh, and I took that title. "Fail with Me" is not to criticize or undermine anyone, but create a supportive space to talk openly about failure. So I had a few difficult years, and when I was struggling, I found that motivational speeches or articles, they assume that you are doing it wrong, and then they tend to become preachy. So I wanted to challenge that narrative and created this space called "Fail with Me," where people can come in and they can talk about failure from different perspectives, which is from where it has grown to this podcast. And I have had participation from doctors, psychologists, speakers, writers, educators, and it has been nothing short of amazing over last 12 months, and I'm looking forward to creating more than one episode with you. So let's get started with our discussion today. And the first thing I wanted to hear from you is about your inspiration. How did you get started on your journey to be who
Right.
you are today?
So I would like to, highlight a very important and interesting fact about my journey here. Like Since your title says fail with me, I think it's a very very dear subject to me. It's a very very dear topic to my heart, because when I was introduced to psychology in my 11th standard, for the first time I failed in my first assessment. Probably because back then I was more interested into PCB. I was focusing on my medical entrance and all. And the second biggest reason that which I tend to notice now these days, it's because back then I lacked mental health awareness. Back then I took psychology as a very easy peasy subject. I was very casual about the literature, about the theories and everything back then. But later on, when I started learning about psychology, later on, when I was introduced to so many mental health seminars and webinars, so gradually I became very, very interested into the subject. And now then I'm pursuing my career in psychology. So I think, life in general, it's a trial and error process. So if we are not engaging in something, how will we understand if that thing is going to work for us or work against us? So, I mean, fail with me is really a very, very dear topic, a dear subject to me.
And from what I have seen is that when we fail at something,
Mm.
because of our conditioning, we have a stigma about it. And the
Right,
same thing goes into mental health. So
right,
a lot
right.
of issues in today's mental health is the stigma, like we,
Very
what it
true.
is and the acceptance of it and
Mm.
the kindness for this. And
Mm.
I wanted to, since you are a practicing psychologist, the first thing I wanted to ask you is,
Mm.
can you help us understand uh, mental health from your point of view?
Yes, yes, absolutely. So, mental health, like I would like to start with the definition of mental health. If we talk about WHO, it is defining mental health as a complete state of well being, complete state of physical, social, mental, emotional well being, and not just merely absence of any disease. And I think it same goes for mental health or physical health, like not just the absence of deformity or absence of diseases is the health or the mental health or the physical health. It's the overall perspective that comes into the picture. Like you also have to focus on the things that you already have. You also have to focus on your hope building, nurturing your confidence, nurturing your emotional intelligence and resilience, coping skills. I think these factors are also very important when we talk about mental health, and not just depression, anxiety, OCD, and the terms that we are usually aware of. So, from my point of view, if I have to define mental health or just talk about mental health, I think it's in today's fast paced world, it has become like a great challenge where we have to maintain the mental health, mental sanity, mental well-being, wellness, whatever you call it. I think it's not just the absence of disease or something that is causing the harm to the person. It is also what the person already has in it, like the hope, the emotional intelligence, the resilience, coping skills, self esteem, confidence. We have to work on those areas as well. So, together, it is coming under the mental health umbrella term.
Thanks for explaining that. And from what I have seen is that maybe this is something to do with our generation, that these awareness came in very late, which is why we are not across them as much. I am a father, and my daughter just completed her primary school, which is grade six as per Australian standards. And
Mhm.
I feel that she is more aware of mental health than I ever was in that age. So I think the awareness, it has come a long way, and with newer generation, it is becoming more and more a sort
Right.
of important awareness, you know. And one thing I wanted to ask you is that we talked about this, we touched upon this very briefly, that our modern
Mhm.
life is so busy, and we
Mm.
are just
Mm.
running after one thing after the another, one meeting to the next, and we
Very
are
true.
always rushing, and we are never taking that a pause to reflect
Mm.
back, look at
Mm.
ourselves. Are we okay? Are
Mm.
we good? And in say, staying there, how do we establish a check in with ourselves, that is our mental health okay? I'm just reflecting back to what you just said,
Right,
that the
right.
definition, that how do we do that, that how do we make sure that we are okay in terms of our mental health?
Right, right, absolutely. So, to explain this part, how to perform like a check process or a review process about your own mental health, I would like to talk about two important aspects here. One is the importance of relax, the importance of quiet time, basically. It's very important, throughout the day, we have a lot of tasks on our plates. Like we are engaged with the family, we are doing the household chores, we are doing the meetings, and we are doing our professional work. A lot of roles we are playing in our day to day life. So, what becomes most important here is how well or maybe how long we are spending time with our own self, how long or maybe how well we are able to sit with our thoughts for some time, just have that quiet mindset, just maybe observe what's happening around us, what are the things present in my surrounding, and how can you be more grounded to your immediate environment, to your present environment. So quiet time becomes very important to ask certain questions. How was your day? Or what things that did work out for today, what things didn't work out for today, how would you like to have a change for the another day? Just reflect back on certain questions, certain self analysis, self reflection. So the importance of quiet time is very neglected, because as we were discussing, it's a busy lifestyle, it's a fast paced world out there. So it's important to rest and relax and have that quiet time, so that we are grounded to the present environment and we are able to give ourselves that amount of relaxation. And the second most important thing to perform a check about your mental health, what I personally do and I ask my clients to do, is basically checking on your battery. So mental health battery, or your own exhaustion battery, I call it like a battery. So just ask yourself certain questions, like if you think that your battery is doing good today, so just ask yourself, why do you think your battery is doing good today, and how can you make it better tomorrow? What are the things that did work out and didn't work out in making your battery good? And in case if you're just feeling okay, you're just feeling decent, so definitely you have to ask yourself questions. How can you make your battery good the next day? How can you increase your battery? And maybe if you're feeling very low and very tired and very drained out for that day, then maybe you have to ask yourself, how can you refill the energy? How can you have that relaxation and some amount of time with yourself to refill the energy? So checking on your battery becomes very important. And if you think that your battery is doing really well for the day, and no such setbacks or no such tiredness or fatigue you have within your mind, within your physical body, then you should work on maintaining that state of mind. How can you maintain or sustain that level of battery? So checking your battery, it becomes very important.
That's a very interesting concept to take away from this session, that self check-in, and I believe that we will explore a little bit more about these self care practices in
Right,
today's discussion. And
right.
before we get to that, I wanted
Hmm.
to address something which is more on the misconceptions. And why
Hmm.
I am saying that is,
Hmm.
uh, the title, Fail With Me. So,
Hmm.
whenever it comes to mental health, we uh, kind of think, because of that, the stigma involved with it, we think that, okay, we have failed, or maybe I am not like others, and then we kind of keep those feelings locked, or sweep it under the rug, that okay, everything is fine. But fail with me is an attempt to
Yeah.
explore the things that we kind of keep hidden, so that we talk about it, we talk about negative emotions, we talk about feeling bad,
Mhm.
then we see that how do we handle those things, in a way that it
Mhm.
doesn't
Mhm.
affect ourselves. So since you are a practitioner in this field, and
Mhm.
can you tell us about some of the misconceptions around mental health? I mean, I guess this is a very broad topic and we can go on and
Right,
on into
right.
this, but I just wanted to hear your thoughts on this.
Right, right. Very true. I think if we talk about misconceptions, I think like you were discussing about awareness and all. Now your daughter just completed her initial years of education and all, and she is also aware about mental health. And you, as a father, you are also aware about mental health. I think with this rise of teletherapy, rise of mental health apps, and right of digital transformation, basically people are actually aware of mental health and mental disorders and everything, which is like a good thing. But definitely, as everything comes with a pro and a con of it. So if we talk about the misconceptions about mental health, so there's a very like a most harmful misconception, and a very general misconception, that mental health issues only affect weak people. So I think it's high time that we should talk about this misconception, because struggling with mental health doesn't make you weak. Instead, if you are asking for help, if you're asking for support, it's a sign that you are trying to become a better person. It's a sign of resilience. It's a sign of, we can say, courage. So it's not like that mental health issues make you weak or something. We are vulnerable. Like before anything, before playing a role as a doctor, as a psychologist, as an author, or anything. We are human beings. And I think being vulnerable to things, being emotionally attached, and having some kind of sensitivity with some triggers around us is a part of us. It's a valid feeling. It's a part. So that will never make us weak. Instead, if we are taking help, and if we are opening up about our mental health concerns, it is a sign of courage. From my end, I personally feel the same. And like we were discussing about social media again, so there's a very interesting thing that goes in social media these days, is a therapy dupe term. Like if they are drinking coffee, or if they are going out meeting a friend, or maybe talking to a friend, talking to their loved one, once they are always terming it as therapy dupes. I mean, these things are indeed therapeutic. Like, if we have someone in our life with whom I can share about my own day, about my own happenings and everything, and maybe if I am able to enjoy some solo time, if I'm drinking that cup of coffee and getting some kind of relaxation, getting some kind of joy out of it, indeed it is therapeutic. But it can never be an alternative to therapy, counseling, and other mental health work. It's absolutely different from just drinking coffee, or maybe just talking to someone. Maybe the intention was to share helpful advices, helpful tips, but yeah, it can contribute to certain misconceptions as well.
Thank you for taking the time to explain that. Uh, I'm always curious about this, and I have my own version on this one. That
Hmm.
when we have a mental health challenge or issue,
Hmm.
how do we know that when we should approach a therapist, we should approach a
Right.
general doctor, or we should approach a psychiatrist? What is your idea around it?
Right, right, right. So basically, there is a very interesting distinguishing between normalcy and disease or disorder. So there are certain behaviors. If we talk about anxiety, have you met anyone in your life who never experienced an episode of anxiety? No. probably if, even if it's just anxiety about going to the market or going to the maybe public washroom or going to uh, any other unknown place like that, we tend to have that amount of like basic amount of anxiety within us. Depression is also very common. I mean, if we talk about just being depressed or just feeling low, it's a very, again, human feeling. It's a very common feeling that we tend to experience. But if a person is just feeling low, or if a person is just feeling anxious, or maybe if a just person is just overeating a lot these days, we cannot term the person as suffering from anxiety, depression, or an eating disorder maybe. So to have that diagnosis, there are certain criteria that as a practitioner, as a psychologist, as a psychiatrist, as a clinical psychologist, we need to check. So one of the important factor is if that amount of anxiety or if that amount of low mood is affecting your daily functioning. So we always have to check on our daily functioning. Like if my anxiety is not letting me work, if my anxiety is coming in between my relationship with my father, with my husband, with my sister, friends, anything, or maybe if my anxiety is not letting me sit at one place at a time, so it might be one of a significant indicator that it is wrong. It might be a serious mental health condition. Same goes for depression as well. If I am just feeling depressed occasionally, or I have been feeling depressed since the past 1 week or 2 weeks or more than a month, so these kind of indicators become very important when we are talking about any disorder. We have to always check the intensity of the disorder, sorry, the amount of distress the disorder is causing to us, and also if it's interfering with our day-to-day routine or daily functioning or not.
That is so very true. And I am saying, I asked this question because I had some challenges in my family, and because I didn't understand this fully as to where
Hmm.
uh, therapy would work and where
Hmm.
it kind of goes into uh, a medicinal territory. So I didn't
Hmm.
understand that. I had
Hmm.
absolutely no clue on this. And
Hmm.
because it is such a taboo subject that,
Hmm.
uh, whoever I spoke to in my circle, my friends, my
Hmm.
family, they kind of downplayed, it's nothing. Whenever, and when I went to the doctors
Yes.
also, sometimes they said that, yeah, it'll pass. It's just a phase, it'll go. And
Hmm.
it didn't. And gradually when went, it kind of went through a few iterations, different
Hmm.
therapists, and when it finally went to a psychiatrist, then the doctor said that, yeah, I understand this and it'll take some time to get out of this, but we will work through it. And that was a shining light of hope that, okay, so this is how it, it is going to uh, step towards wellness, right? And then before that, I felt that I was kind of lost. And
Hmm.
the moment I reached the right people, then I realized, okay, so this is what I was missing, that these symptoms are affecting my day-to-day functions. So that is precisely true based on what I have seen personally
Hmm.
in my life. So thank you for sharing your idea around that. And I think it is very, very important. It is such a simple explanation, but it is so very important for us to understand. And
Absolutely.
since you are a practitioner as
Hmm.
therapist, so can you talk about some of the common issues that you handle? Like, of course,
Hmm.
without going into any details of any particular person,
Hmm.
but just from an awareness point of view, what are the things that we need to build the awareness on? What are some of the, like, we say we just now said that there rarely there is someone whom we have not seen without anxiety. So that
Yes, very
probably
true.
from a scale of in a scale
Hmm.
of 1 to 10, I'm probably everyone fits somewhere in that scale.
True,
But at
very
what
true.
stage it becomes a problem? How do do
Right.
you want to talk about it?
Right, right, absolutely. So, if we talk about some of the common mental health issues here, so anxiety definitely, as we were discussing, like everyone around us, around you around me, around you is experiencing anxiety to some extent. Maybe it can vary on the intensity and the frequency of manifestation, but anxiety is something that we generally experience. So it can be manifested through, like, anxiety can be manifested through different kinds of symptoms or different kinds of tendencies, like, say, having persistent thoughts of worry, feeling restlessness, rapid heartbeat, difficulty in talking, difficulty in concentrating, or difficulty in breathing at times. And at times, in certain cases, it might be severe, as in the person can also experience panic attacks with anxiety. So panic attacks is almost as similar as a heart attack. Like, you tend to feel like you are going crazy and you're going to die, and nothing can be done here. So it happens for a very brief period of time, very short period of time, but the intensity is too much. So anxiety is something that is commonly manifested. And if we talk about depression again, depression, if we talk about, like, on the basis of this recent statistics, 320 million people globally is suffering from depression, which is like the 4% of the total world's population. And if we talk about the same thing according to the Indian statistics, or as per the Indian population, it's 56.7 million people are suffering from depression, which is like 4.5% of the Indian population. So again, depression can be manifested through a lot of symptoms, lot of tendencies, like persistent low mood, persistent sadness, loss of interest in certain things that you earlier used to enjoy, feelings of fatigue, feelings of worthlessness, hopelessness, and helplessness. And at times, again, it can be so severe that the person is also experiencing thoughts of self harm or thoughts of suicide, basically. So, in some cases, it can be, again, very, very intense and very, very to the extremities, basically. The third mental health issue can be eating disorder. I think eating disorder is a very neglected disorders, because it often goes undiagnosed. Because if a person is eating, we maybe term it as overeating, or maybe the person was more hungry, the person was experiencing cravings or something like that. But there's again a fine line of difference to understand if it's an eating disorder or it's just normal overeating or something like that. So 26.7% of the Indian adolescents are suffering from eating disorders. So in eating disorder, it can be manifested through various faulty eating patterns, like at times overeating, and then maybe not eating for days and having faulty body image issues, or having so many stigmas with the food, ki I have to eat this, I have to not eat this. And then at times they even can starve themselves, like adolescents especially, this is common in adolescents. So they can go to that extreme where they are not eating for days after days and just starving. So again, eating disorder is there. Then you have addiction also, substance abuse. Yeah, addiction these days, it's commonly manifested through dependency and inability to control the use of that substance. And that substance can be anything. It can be a drug, it can be alcohol, and these days we have addiction in terms of gambling, in terms of social media, etc. So I think these are few general mental health issues and mental health disorders that are widely manifested in the global population.
That is so well explained. Thank you for that. And in our planning, you talked about self-care practices, which are
Right.
very, very important. And I want to give you a tiny example here. It relates to what you just said, that all these sort of issues that we talked about, or addiction or anxiety and things like that, is because we do not engage in the self-care
Very
practices.
true.
In
Yeah.
my profession, I am a software engineer, and then in my profession, what I have uh, seen people do is people get stressed, and then they balance that stress either with alcohol, or with tobacco, or with binge eating, or,
Very
and in today's day and age, it is with binge content watching, right?
true. Yeah.
So I want to understand and ask you that when it comes to like negative emotions, or this stress, or how,
Mm.
or anxiety, anything in
Mm.
that broad brush, so how do we handle these negative emotions, and how do we do our self care? What are your thoughts around that?
Absolutely. I think self-care is a very, very big topic in itself, and it's very important also. Because as I was mentioning, like, throughout the day, we have been playing a lot of roles. We have been playing multiple roles throughout the life in general. We are, you like, if we take your example, you're playing a role in the office setting, you're playing a role in the family as a father, as a husband, as a brother, and for yourself also you have certain responsibility, what kind of role I am serving to myself, or what kind of role I am playing for myself, that becomes very, very important here. And here comes the role of self care. So if we talk about self care, the three pillars of self care according to me is, first should be the physical activities. At least in our day to day routine, we should have basic physical activities and not just a completely sedentary lifestyle. Because, we were discussing about digital age and all, and I think with digital age, we are more prone to just sit in front of the laptops and screen and just do the work, and in that way the lifestyle is becoming very, very sedentary. So it's very important that we should have basic mobility, basic act of movement throughout the day. And it can be as basic as doing some household chores, or maybe going for a small brisk walk after your bigger meals, like say dinner, lunch, breakfast. It can be as basic as that. So I think physical activities, and the second most important thing is your diet. So there is a very interesting gut brain, like a gut and mind connection. I think we can talk about it in later of your podcast or something, because it's a very, very huge topic, and how your body, like how the gut health and the mental health is related. That plays a very important role here. So diet is the second thing, and the third pillar is the sleep. At least minimum of 7 to 9 hours of sleep is required for minimal functioning. It can vary plus one, minus one, depending on the individual's requirement of sleep and all. But at least there should be a balance between your sleep cycle and your work cycle or your active cycle. So these three pillars are very, very important when we talk about self care. And the other things can be quiet time, like importance of quiet time. It's very important for us to do some sort of self reflection. To engage in self reflection, we can either engage in visualization, like we can just sit with our thoughts, visualize the thoughts, whatever it's coming to the mind at first, and just trying to brainstorm ideas and find out what kind of thought is this. Is this thought evoking any kind of emotion or any kind of body sensation or feeling, or is there any trigger that you can notice around you which is triggering that thought? So visualization, or you can use like a journaling tool as well. You can write down about your thoughts, what's bothering you. And these days you get so many prompts also in the internet, in the other websites, which acts as a guide or a key to journaling. So journaling, self reflection, importance of quiet time becomes very important. And since we are talking about self care, I think in self care, what becomes most important here is how well we are able to do a positive analysis of ourselves. If we are sitting with our own thoughts and just having the negative aspects about the day, about the life, about the week, or about myself, it will only create emotional baggage. It will only create more mental health issues, and definitely you will not feel good about it if you are having a bad self reflection about yourself or about the day. So here comes the role of gratitude as well. So it's very important for us to focus on things that we already have on our hands rather than things that we don't have. Maybe I had a very bad day today. I missed few of my appointments. I missed few of the meetings. I couldn't reach to the office on time, or I had a lot of things. Maybe I lost my phone. I lost some money. Something. It might be a very worst, like a worst day of my life, but still I should always promise myself that whenever I am reflecting back on the day, at least two basic things I'll find out from the day which happened on a very positive note. And it can be as basic as maybe just receiving a thanks from some stranger, or it can be as basic as waking up on time or something like that. So if we are reflecting back, and if we are just trying to find out two three positive things that happened on the day, and if we are somehow able to internalize it, like if we are somehow able to give the credit to ourselves. I received thank you from my colleague or from that unknown person because I was helpful to the person. Or maybe I woke up early, or maybe I woke up just on time today. It's because I was very particular about my sleep schedule, or it was because I was very particular about my next day schedule, or something like that. If we are some able to recognize and give the credit to ourselves and expressing the gratitude to our own self, I made this happen, or this thing happened positively because I made it happen. So in that way, definitely you will have confidence boost, and it's a very good way of taking care of your own self.
That is so well explained. We have come towards the end of our discussion, but I would like to
Mhm.
go back to one of the points you mentioned is today's social media culture. And I see this as we suffer from self awareness at a deeper level so that we have an external locus of identity. So that is where social media becomes very unhealthy and people get sucked into all kinds of negativity through it. How do we, build a healthier aspect around that?
Yeah, very true. See, here I think it becomes very important. Like if a fact is coming in front of me through social media, so how well I am able to verify the fact, how well I am able to check on the fact. Suppose if there is a statement saying that maybe drinking coffee cures depression, or drinking coffee boosts your self-esteem or something. It can be as basic as that. So it, as an individual, it becomes my responsibility before believing on the fact that how well I am able to verify it. Like you have so many open resources these days. You have podcast culture. You have so many mental health apps, YouTube links, journals, different books, etc. You can be associated with mental health experts as well to verify the fact, to check on the things. But it's important. It's the responsibility of the individual that before believing blindly on what the social media is trying to say, to just conduct or maybe a review check, or like a verify the fact and look for the evidences as well. Like what evidence do you have, what physical evidence do you have in front of you to believe that anxiety can be cured just by talking to your loved one, or just by eating that sweet, or eating that cup of coffee or something like that. And secondly, it is also very important, while you are checking on the facts, while you are doing your own basic research about the fact, it becomes very important for you to not self-diagnose yourself. Like not to, term yourself. Like suppose I am feeling anxious, I'm feeling worried since few days, and I have been having some sleep disturbances, some overthinking loops and all. So, and suddenly I came across this social media reel or social media post which says that if you're having these symptoms, you are an anxiety patient. You have to take medicines, you are suffering from anxiety, something. And definitely a person who is already having worry thoughts, a person who is already feeling vulnerable, will start naturally self-diagnosing himself herself, start resonating himself herself with those symptoms, with those tendencies. So while we are conducting a mini research, checking on the symptoms, checking on the facts, what the social media is trying to say, it's very important for us to become that aware, that much aware, to not self-diagnose myself or himself herself. If you feel like you have certain criteria which is ticking the box of anxiety disorders or something like that, go get yourself checked. Go get yourself checked to any kind of mental health expert, mental health professional. And I think the same goes for physical health also. These days you have so many reels saying that if you're having these symptoms, you are suffering from maybe cancer, you are suffering from something very big, some kind of like disorders like that. So it becomes very important, be it mental health or physical health. Health literacy plays a big role here. How literate we are about these medical terms and how aware we are. If not, if we are finding ourselves stuck with so much of information around us, it's always better to just have an initial conversation or an initial checkup with any kind of practitioner. It can be a physical health practitioner. In different countries, as you were mentioning, you have GP culture. So they go to this GP, and depending on the symptoms and all, the GP can refer you to different branches of healthcare. So that works as well.
That is very well said and very rational explanation to uh, a simple yet very trivial kind of aspect of mental health, I believe. And I think we have covered the areas that we wanted to talk about in our first episode. Is there anything you'd like to share with the audience? Is there anything that I missed out?
Yeah, sure, definitely. I think lastly, the point of you conducting podcast, the point of me talking about it is basically, sorry, the point of we discussing about mental health on podcast is basically to normalize mental health conversations. I think it's very important for families to start with mental health conversations, like just talk about their day, just talk about the things, like you mentioned in one of these statements, like when you were suffering from mental health issue, and when you disclose this to the family, to the friends, they started telling you this thing like it's all in your head, or it's just you're overthinking or something of that sort. So it's very essential to break certain stigmas and taboos that runs in the families, and as a responsible member of the family, it becomes very important to normalize certain conversations like that, and also to encourage professional help if needed. Like if as a mother, as a sister, as a brother, as a wife, as any family member, if I am able to notice something, if I'm able to identify something, it's very important for me to gently suggest the idea of therapy, to gently suggest the idea of taking mental health care and help. So I think these two things becomes very important. I think it's also part of self care. It's also part of self awareness and mental health, basically.
Wonderful. And I look forward to exploring a lot of that with you. We will, let's hope the listeners you like this episode, and then I'll have Debanjali's details in the episode description so that you can get in touch with her if you're interested. And another thing I would like to say to our listeners, that if you have any questions, if you have any areas that you would like us to bring up in our next episode, then feel free to leave comments in on YouTube, on Spotify, and social media. There are lots of options available. reach out, and hopefully we'll get those questions talked about in our next discussion. Thank you so much once again, Debanjali, for taking the
Thank you
time.
too for having me as a guest here. And I think it's a really great initiative that you have been doing. And I'm really grateful to be a part of this show.
Thank you.